And look who's coming up.
Welcome to the Thursday edition of Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. My name is Dean Millard, and coming to you live from the marsh just outside of Edmonton. It is great to have you aboard on this Thursday, October 13th, as we are getting closer and closer to that special time of the year when all four sports in North America are playing at the same time. That's going to happen on Tuesday when the NBA tips off. Well, I guess it won't happen on Tuesday. It'll happen next Thursday when the NHL, baseball, as long as baseball's not on an off day. But it is coming. It's a brief period during the sports calendar when the baseball playoffs, because they go late, are still going. So it's close. We are getting very, very close to that special time of the year. As for today, we've got just a solid, outstanding guest lineup for you. Andy McNamara. Both of these guys are here to help you win your fantasy league. One in football, one in hockey. Andy McNamara, Ask Andy, will come your way at 5 p.m. Eastern. And this is your chance to figure out some lineup moves that you need to make this weekend. This will be at 5 p.m. Eastern. Use the hashtag AskAndy, and we will get to your questions when it comes to fantasy football. Interesting, I'm just watching NFL Live right now, and the headline is, Commanders owner Dan Schneider claims has dirt on owners. One owner told by Schneider that the Commanders owner has dirt on Jerry Jones. Wow. I bet you there's lots of dirt on Jerry Jones, but people just aren't, they're scared to use it. Anyway, Michael Amato from Dobber Hockey, Goalie Post, and Sportsnet is going to help you get your weekend matchups ready when it comes to goalies and other things in fantasy hockey. He cares about your fantasy team. We will indeed have a Dobber Hockey double shot today. I did get it done. The Canucks and the Golden Knights. We had a graphic malfunction yesterday, but we do have it today, so we will get to that. Plus, we'll have top 5 quarterbacks, tight ends for week 6, some injury news, and much, much more as we roll along the show. And we start things off every day with the question of the day. And this question is, do you have a low ball tax in fantasy trades? So we talked about the jerk tax earlier and whether or not you have you add on to what a trade value might be in a deal because that person is a jerk. So we talked about the jerk tax earlier. I have a jerk tax. Do you have a lowball tax in fantasy trades? Now, I'm not talking about the first offer. I think the first offer is always going to be a lowball offer. Probably should be anyway. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you get into negotiations and you continuously get lowballed. Like, we put Bo Horvat on the block in our 32 franchise league, UFHL, where every player means something. So, Bo Horvat is pretty valuable. And we got a few good offers, like maybe 3, in as we kind of went back and forth. The rest were mostly low balls. Even after the first offer. I don't mind the first offer being a low. It's a starter. But after that, if you keep getting what I call mediocre for top talent, and depending on what your ask is, if you're asking for Juraj Slafkovsky for Bo Horvat, the first overall pick. It's probably not going to happen. But it's interesting to see the back and forth. So I do. I am very good at writing things down and remembering things when they happen to me. So I definitely have a lowball tax. And then, I'll just, unless I'm absolutely throttling in a trade that I need to make, I keep throwing that lowball tax in there until the person that I'm dealing with figures it out, and then you don't, or you just don't ever negotiate with them again. That's your lowball tax. It's like, no. See, the thing is, I think not negotiating with somebody out of that hurts you. So, and listen, if your lowball tax is going to kill the deal and you need to make the deal, you need to take the lowball tax out. You can't afford to let your ego, your pride, all that stuff get in the way of a good deal. But if you can work that lowball tax in there, you need to try to do it. But not dealing with people, I think just you're eliminating the possibilities. It's like if you only drafted half of the league, well, you're only getting half of the good players. So I wouldn't not deal with somebody. If somebody's a jerk and a lowballer, oh my goodness, they're getting the jerk tax and the lowball tax. It's almost like the fuel tax that we're paying here in Alberta. Almost like that. So that's the question of the day. Do you have a lowball tax when dealing in fantasy and with fantasy trades? Top 3 today is top 3 NHL players you want to see live. Coming to an arena near you. Who do you want to see live? First on my list is Igor Shasturkin. And I think it's February when the Rangers are here. February or March. So later in the season. So I'll be looking to get to that game. The other guy is Jack Eichel. Another guy who was mostly in the Eastern Conference for his career. Just came over to Vegas last year, late in the season. And looked good early on. Last season and this year. And I want to go see a Vegas-Edmonton game to see Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid head-to-head a few times. I don't think Jack Eichel nobody's as fast as Connor McDavid, but Jack Eichel is fast, and he's got a ridiculous shot. And I think he scores over 50 this year. And Alex Ovechkin, I really want to see live this year. December 5th, I think the Capitals come to Edmonton. Or, maybe you do the tour. Maybe you do the, when Sidney Crosby came out west for the first time, it was the Route 87 tour that Sportsnet dubbed it. Maybe you do the Route 8 tour and you do Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton, and you get 3 OV games. Like, that would be a really smart travel agency sports package. The Route 8 tour. The Great 8 tour. Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, whatever the order is. I definitely want to see Ovechkin one more time. Late in his career, I got a chance to watch Nick Lidstrom. And got really lucky. Usually I would be sitting in the press box. And you get, obviously, the best view. There's no doubt about it. You get the best view from the press box. Everybody... everything happens in, it seems like loads of time. This game, though, I had a chance to watch Nick Lidstrom from the very first row. Now, I don't think I would want season tickets in the very first row of a hockey game, like for 41 games. But every once in a while, when you get to watch really special players, try to get as low as possible, because then the game is as fast as possible without you actually being on the ice. And watching Nick Lidstrom from the very first row was literally like watching a symphony a conductor conduct a symphony orchestra. He just controlled the game so well. Now, the Oilers weren't a great team, let me say that, but it was still simply awesome to see that guy, and even late in his career, he was so good. So I implore you, if you do get to go see some of these stars, like a McDavid or an Eichel or a Crosby or an Ovechkin, try to get as low as possible. See how fast the game is at their level. And in Lidstrom's case, the game was so fast, but he never looked like he was trying too hard or breaking a sweat. I remember Craig Button uses the term about Chris Pronger that he could play in a rocking chair. I think that's the same thing with Nick Lidstrom. He was so calm, cool, and collected. So for me, it's Igor Shasturkin, Jack Eichel, and Alexander Ovechkin, the three players that I would like to see. By the way, we will be giving away a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide today when Mike Amato joins us on the program. You do have to be in the Twitch chat, so just head to twitch.com or twitch.tv, twitch.tv/Ultimate Fantasy Sports. And if you're watching this live, you're already there. George Batchel says, no lowball tax. If a guy offers me crap, then I disregard it. I usually don't initiate talks with those guys. And again, I go back to that. You're taking away half of the field or whatever, however many it is. So anyway, that was the question of the day. That is our top three. And it's time now to get on to some of the things that are making big news. Again, this report on NFL Live that I'm watching right now, I don't have the sound on, but the headline is Commanders owner Dan Snyder claims he has dirt on owners and Roger Goodell. Multiple NFL sources. Snyder has had private investigators look into other owners and Goodell. Wow. All because he was a terrible owner. And this guy is mad. Like, this is a child throwing a tantrum. Oh, you guys investigated me for having a horrible workspace and being a terrible boss? Oh, no, I'm going to get you back now and find out all the terrible things you did. Like, as if the Washington football team hasn't been a big enough embarrassment already. Now this. Totally embarrassing.
Child, please.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
That's terrible. All right, let's get to the Major League Baseball playoffs. Playoffs, yes. The Mariners and the Astros. As we take a look at the overall playoff picture, the Yankees and the Guardians and the Mariners and Astros will play today. Astros, after that walk-off win, lead the series 1-0. So do the Yankees, 1-0. Both 1 and 2 seeds. The other 1-2 seeds in the NL, one lost, 1-1 last night. Atlanta gets even with the Phillies with a 3-0 victory, and the Padres defeat the Dodgers in LA, and they had a pretty decent game against Clayton Kershaw, which doesn't always happen. He didn't factor into the decision, but he wasn't dominant. So pretty good trade-off for the Padres. We'll tell you all about those games in a little bit. But the games going on right now. We have live Major League Baseball, and it is the Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros. And this is a really good pitching matchup when it comes to the Houston Astros. So this game is already underway. It's 1-0 Houston, and the very odd wind-up Framber Valdez is on the hill. And so you can pretty much set your watch by Framber Valdez that he is going to go at least 6 innings. Look what he did in the regular season. 25 straight quality starts from April 25th to September 18th. A quality start is at least 6 innings and 3 runs or less. That's incredible. That is the quality start king. That is the consistency king. He did just give up a double, but that's going to happen. I believe it was Crawford that hit that double. Kyle Tucker hit a home run in the first inning, by the way, to get Houston off to this 1-0 lead. And Yordan Alvarez just missed a big play, the man who hit the walk-off in Game 1. It was the first walk-off home run in Game 1 with a team down to their final at-bat since Kirk Gibson And the Mariners, now they're getting a little action from the top of their order, but wow, 7 for 31 in Houston in 2019, since 2019, counting that loss the other day. So this game on right now, 1-0 Houston. Yep. Oh, and that's a great play by Jose Altuve, going in the hole to make the play. That was beautiful. Great defense. So that's what's going on right now. Mariners and Astros, that game underway right now. Later tonight, you have the Guardians and the Yankees. And the Yankees leading this series 1-0. Wow, that was a really close play to get Rodriguez of the Mariners at first. But Altuve is one of the best. That's why he's a Gold Glove superstar. So the Yankees and the Guardians tonight at 7:37 Eastern time. Shane Bieber was terrific in the wild card. He's going to have to be even better against Nestor Cortez. Bullpen's very good. And the Yankees' top of the order was garbage. 1 for 12, despite getting the win. So that one goes at 7:37 Eastern time tonight. As for last night, the Dodgers, or the Braves rather, they win this game last night thanks to 3 singles in the 6th inning. Yes, this is the Atlanta Braves I am talking about. Normally, this is an Atlanta team that plays the long ball game. They are very good at hitting home runs, the Atlanta Braves. But yesterday, they were not hitting home runs. Yesterday, they kind of played a little small ball. Or today, rather, yesterday, yeah. 3 singles in the 6th inning that all scored runs. All 1 runs. And then Kenley Jansen came in and closed things out in the 9th. Atlanta evens the series at 1 apiece. And that was it. It was a pretty tidy game other than that by both the Phillies and the Braves. In the nightcap, the Padres and the Dodgers had a solo homer fest. 4 solo home runs. Jake Cronenworth with the big one. That was the big blast that sent the Padres to the victory. Kershaw and Darvish only go 5 each, but Darvish does outlast the Padres 5-3 to even the series at 1. The big reason the LA Dodgers lost last night, 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position and 10 men left on base. So clearly you're not winning any games when you go 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position and you leave that many men on base. Clayton Kershaw had been dominant against the Padres in his career. 310 strikeouts in just 45 appearances going into last night. But as mentioned, didn't factor in to the victory. Brusdar Graterol, who came in and made a great defensive play, took the loss. Kershaw, not terrible. 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, the 1 home run to Manny Machado, who seems to always somehow get a clutch hit off Clayton Kershaw. So he wasn't terrible. Yu Darvish, 7 strikeouts in 5 innings, but it was just a different kind of game. And the Dodgers couldn't ever get back after the 8th inning home run by Cronenworth. And that was it. Josh Hader came in and did Josh Hader things, and the Padres evened this up. Now, I think if the Dodgers won last night, this series would be done. But I'm not writing the Padres off in this series. On Friday, Tony Gonsolin will go up against Blake Snell, who got better as the season went on. Braves have not yet named their starter, as I can see, and Aaron Nola will go, the right-hander will go for the Phillies. It's interesting. The Dodgers are going finally with 2 left-handers they went, and the Padres hit lefties well this year. So we'll see what Gonsolin, the Cat, who was 16-1 with a 2.14 ERA, can do against the Padres as a right-hander. All right, let's get to some Thursday night football action tonight. It's the Commanders and the Bears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't mean to tell you this is the game that you are forced to watch tonight. But it is, unfortunately. Do you think this game will be better than the debacle we had last week? That's the main thing. If it is, you're fine. The good thing is you have choices tonight. You don't have to watch bad football if it is. You can watch NHL hockey. You can watch Major League Baseball. And there's some really cool shows streaming as well. But when it comes to start and sits, we'll get Andy McNamara's views on this, but not a lot of starts in this game. Neither quarterback gets a start for me. I would start David Montgomery, and I would use Brian Robinson in a flex. I think he's going to bust out at some point. He's the one good story in Washington. Like, if there's one good story, it's Brian Robinson Jr. Sit Gibson. Curtis Samuel could be a flex option, and I guess you could use Terry McLaurin as a flex option as well. But I'd sit the tight end, John Bates. Justin Fields, sit. Montgomery, the running back, you could start. Khalil Herbert, sit. Mooney, sit. Equiminius St. Brown, best name in the game, but he's going to sit. And Cole Kmet, sit as well. So there's the starts and sits that I would be advocating for tonight's game. As mentioned, not going to be that fun of a game. But there are some fun prop bets. If you really want to torture yourself and watch this game, there are some prop bets that you can look into. So Carson Wentz. Do you like 218 and a half yards of passing for the Commanders? Like, it doesn't seem like a lot of yards to put up. 218. But I don't know. Can you trust anything in Washington right now? Justin Fields, 169 passing yards. I think that's a possibility. Like, I mean, it's only 170 passing yards, right? A quarterback should be able to get 179 yards or 170 yards in passing. But this guy has only done it twice this year. That's why it's set at that. And now, it has happened in the last two games, so maybe there is a trend upwards. I would take that. I think he covers. Cole Kmet, 29 and a half receiving yards, under for me. Justin Fields, 42 and a half rushing yards. Now, this is an interesting thing because in his last three games, he has had more than 42 and a half rushing yards. Against the Giants, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry on 7 rushes. So he's carried the ball 11 times. 3 times he's carried it 8 and 7 times. So I take the over on that. Justin Fields, 42 and a half rushing yards. And Brian Robinson Jr., like I said, best story out of Washington. The only good story out of Washington. 47 and a half yards. Now, I would love to tell you to take the over because it's such a good story. But I'm a little bit scared. He's only played one game. He had 22 yards on 9 carries. Are they going to give him the ball as much? He's reportedly going to start tonight. He only had 16 snaps in his first, but that was just to make sure this guy. I'm saying go over. It's a great story. Brian Robinson Jr. comes back from getting shot. Take the over, 47 and a half rushing yards. So I would take the over on that one. Carson Wentz, I think you're going under. Justin Fields over on the passing. Cole Kmet under. Fields over on the rushing. And I'm feeling good about Brian Robinson Jr., the over. What do you think? What do you think of those picks? Would you make any of these prop bets for tonight? Well, if you are, I got a way to do it. Head to BetUS and get a 125% bonus to bet on sports when you use my link in my bio at Duck Millard on Twitter. So head to Twitter, go to @Duck Millard, click the link in my bio, make your deposit, and you get a 125% bonus. You can look at some of these prop bets. Pretty amazing stuff out there to get a 125% bonus when you use the link in my bio at Duck Millard. All right, let's take a look at some of the top 5 quarterback plays for this week in the National Football League. And, you know, you've got, like, this is really, in my opinion, when the NFL season starts to get really interesting. Why? Because you have bye weeks. Lions, Titans, Raiders, and Texans. Oh my, on a bye. This is when fantasy football, in my opinion, gets the hardest. When you have to start relying on depth. When is your quarterback week bye? Do you have a suitable replacement? What about your receivers, your running backs? And what a marquee matchup we're going to get this weekend. The Bills and the Chiefs. The number 1 quarterback going up against the number 4 quarterback when it comes to the projections. And I got to think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are going to be 1-2 coming out of this week. I think both of those guys are going to feed off each other. I think both of them are going to put out more points than those projections in half PPR leagues. So, you know, I don't know who you pick. Like, Josh Allen is projected to put up more points, but I think it's a coin flip between Mahomes and Allen this week. Who's going to come out as the number 1 quarterback from the past week? Lamar Jackson takes on Baltimore. Lamar Jackson takes on the 4-1 New York Giants. Still seems a little bit strange to say that, doesn't it? The 4-1 New York Giants. It's a good matchup for Lamar Jackson and the Giants. The Giants have given up some rushing yards. 102 yards in the first couple of weeks of the season. Gotten better as of late. And Lamar Jackson is coming off a game where he only put up 174 yards. So you know that this guy is going to want to really double down and come up strong against the Giants. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I think this is an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to put up 240, 250 yards, couple of touchdowns, and run one in. I don't see why Jalen Hurts can't get it done. 4 passing touchdowns this year, 6 rushing touchdowns for the Eagles quarterback, who's only 24 yards. I think Jalen Hurts outpoints Lamar Jackson this week. And then you have Patrick Mahomes. We talked about him in the Buffalo Bills matchup. Now, there are some that are saying that this is a bad matchup for Patrick Mahomes. The Bills do not give up a whole lot of offense to quarterbacks. You know, Kenny Pickett put up 327 yards, but didn't throw a touchdown. In fact, the Bills have only given up 3 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks this year. The league average 17.4 fantasy points, and the Bills are giving up 10.6. I still think Patrick Mahomes rises to the occasion in this contest. I really do. But the guy that if you're playing daily fantasy, the guy that you might really want to go get is Kyler Murray. Because Seattle has given up 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Jared Goff threw 4 of them. They've also given up 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 to Jimmy Garoppolo this year. But they're giving up an average of 2 touchdowns a game, pretty much. Almost 20 points. And Kyler Murray projected to put up over 20 points. I think that could be even higher. I think, when the quarterback rankings come out of week 6, I think it's going to be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Out of these 5, somebody else might sneak in there. I'm not going to sit there and say nobody else is going to sneak into that top 6 or top 5. But that is what I think these quarterbacks are going to do in that order. Tom Brady comes in at number 6. Justin Herbert, the 7th-ranked quarterback this week. Joe Burrow taking on New Orleans at number 8. It's a good matchup. Geno Smith, a top 10 quarterback for Seattle. And Kirk Cousins of Minnesota taking on Miami. Rounds out the top 10. Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford out of the top 10 as well. And Jimmy G working his way up the list. He's not there yet. He's not the greatest quarterback. But if you're a San Francisco 49ers fan, you have to love it, because you are getting production from your quarterback. Okay, so that is a look at the top 5 quarterbacks. Now, let's take a look at the top 5 tight ends. Now, take a quick look at that screen and memorize some of the teams that have the top 5 quarterback projections for this week. Because some of those same teams are being projected for the tight end. So is that the key to quarterback success? Having a top tight end? Well, certainly for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Mahomes, the number 4 quarterback. Kelce projected to be the number 1 tight end against Buffalo. The guy that's not on this list is the number 1 guy for quarterbacks, Josh Allen. He doesn't have a tight end on this list. Dawson Knox hasn't done a whole lot. They don't really have a tight end game. Now, they have probably the best 1-2 punch of receivers in the game, and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. But Kelce, followed by Mark Andrews, and then a sharp drop-off. Dallas Goedert, less than 10 points. Same with Zach Ertz in Arizona and Tyler Higbee. But it is interesting that only Higbee's quarterback is not on that list. And only Josh Allen's tight end is not on this list. So it looks like the key to quarterback success in the NFL, and in fantasy in particular, is having a strong tight end. And then as far as injuries, we brought you an injury report earlier this week. Here's a bit more of an updated injury report based on today and yesterday's practices. Oh, and the Mariners got something going now. First, second, and third. As that ball, Mitch Haniger ripped it down the line, and then it bounced around for a bit. But T. Higgins in Cincinnati has an ankle injury, and he did not practice on Thursday. He was, though, working off to the side, according to ESPN's Ben Baby. Didn't practice yesterday after he aggravated his injury early in last week's game against the Ravens. They said he was day-to-day on Monday. So if Higgins can make it through today, well, not today, tomorrow, he has a chance to be wide receiver 2-3 against the Saints. But if not, Tyler Boyd gets bumped up, if that's the case. Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, he has a thumb injury, didn't practice Wednesday, but he's saying it's not going to be a big deal. He's saying, relax, everybody, relax. I'm going to be okay. Keenan Allen for the Chargers has a hamstring, could play on Monday night. This is the one update we got. He did go through individual drills on Wednesday. They played the Broncos on Monday night. He has missed 4 games because of this hamstring that he suffered in week 1. They could desperately need him. Fantasy owners falling out of the race need him to get back in it. So if he's in, he's a wide receiver 2-3. Denver's a good matchup against them, but if he's not ready to play, Josh Palmer moves up as a flex option behind Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. Michael Thomas. What is going on with Mr. Thomas and the Saints? Well, he has a toe injury, didn't practice on Wednesday. Adam Schefter said he's likely to play against the Bengals, but the practice signal is not good. If he practices today, and I haven't heard anything, he probably will suit up for the first time since week 3. The Saints desperately need him back because look at the guy below him, Chris Olave. He is out with a concussion. Well, he didn't practice yesterday. And I'm not optimistic that Chris Olave is going to be able to get back in time. He was hanging out with Jarvis Landry and Thomas on the injury report. If he can't go Sunday and Michael Thomas isn't going, you're looking at Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith. Wow. Maybe just stay away from the Saints if those two guys are definitely not active, because that is some big, big troubles. Once again, here's a look at the top running backs going into this week. Saquon Barkley is slowly taking over the number 1 spot from Nick Chubb, who is bounced to number 2. Austin Eckler of the Chargers starting to get things going. Christian McCaffrey playing 85% of the snaps, and so the injury concerns should be gone there. It's just a matter of, is he going to get traded? And Leonard Fournette comes in with a point total of just under 14.6. Here are your top receivers for this week. Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Mike Evans. More of the usual suspects when it comes to that sort of thing. All right, we have gone really deep in this first hour. When we come back, we're going to get into our Dobber Hockey double shot. It's a preview today. It's a double shot, rather, between Vancouver and Vegas. We're going to get to that when we come back. I'm going to duck out, grab a quick drink of water, and we'll be back in a short, minor break here on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. In the meantime, check out the Ultimate Crypto Driving Championship.
Get yourselves ready to race at great heights to become the global sim racing champion. Create your crypto livery. Enter with the best designs. Enter to win prizes. Outrace your competition. Winning is all that matters. Watch the other racers in your rear view mirror. Gain massive exposure battling against the biggest names in crypto with a season-long race for the championship. Bring glory to your token. Drive like a champion, win it all. Be first or last. If you're not rubbing, you're not racing. Get behind the wheel and drive for your project.
It is 4:44 Eastern Time. My name is Dean Millard. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Love chatting with everybody in the Twitch message board. It's just going off. It's so crazy. There's so much going on in the Twitch message board. You will want to be in the message chat when Michael Amato joins us in the next hour, because we're going to be giving away a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide, and it is amazing, let me tell you. And it's updated, so it's impressive stuff. By the way, the Mariners scored 2, and they are now up 2-1. I believe that was in the 5th inning. I'll just give a quick check. Yeah, the Mariners, mid-4th. They lead the Astros 2-1. Pena, who's the guy who kept the drive alive the other night for Yordan Alvarez to hit the home run. Alvarez and Bregman all coming up for the Stros in the bottom of the 4th. All right, let's get back to a little hockey talk, as we will have Michael Amato coming up a little bit later in the program to chat with us. Ask Andy. Get your hashtag out there on social media. Next segment, Andy McNamara will be here to help you out with your fantasy football questions. But right now, it is time for a Dobber Hockey preview. Actually, before we get to that, let's take a quick look at the Top Shelf Fantasy Night performers. Little combo, little hockey baseball combo here. Connor McDavid, 3 goals and assist. The game winner, 3 points on the power play, 5 shots on goal and 5 hits. Pretty incredible numbers for the Oiler captain and the best player in the game. No doubt about it. New dude booty. John Gibson, of the Ducks. How about that? 44 saves in a victory. Did give up 4 goals against, but he also balanced that with an assist. Pretty impressive from the Ducks goaltender. John Klingberg, by the way, 2 assists in that game. Off the board, Norris candidate. In the game of baseball, Kyle Wright had it dealing for the Braves. Gets the quality start because he went 6 innings, no runs, just 2 hits, 6 strikeouts in a victory over the Phillies. And that 6th inning is when the Braves hit all their singles. So he did just enough to get the lead and then let the bullpen take over. And Freddie Freeman, former Brave for the Dodgers in a losing cause, goes 2 for 4 with an RBI, a home run, scored a run, did draw a walk, and an OPS of 2,100. It's the American League today. As mentioned, the Mariners are leading Seattle, or Seattle's leading the Mariners 2-1 in the mid-4th, bottom of the 4th inning. And tonight, Guardians, Yankees, 7:30, Shane Bieber, Nestor Cortez on the hill for that one. All right, let's get to our Dobber Hockey team preview now. And we're taking a look at the Vancouver Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights on today's edition. And we will start with the Canucks, as we do with alphabetical order. And we saw the Canucks last night. Now, it was a not the lineup they're wanting to put out there with no Tyler Myers and a few others. But the three guys you're looking at with the Canucks, oh, there we go. Alvarez with a oh no, that was Jeremy Pena. This Jeremy Pena for the Houston Astros keep getting it done. The rookie shortstop just drilled one for a double. So the top three guys with the Canucks, I think it's pretty obvious. JT Miller, could close in on 100 points. Elias Peterson, still so much potential as he continues to look more and more like one of the Sedins. And Quinn Hughes. Terrific Hughes brother. Such a great skating defenseman. I mean, when I watch the Hughes boys play, they're kind of like rovers, the defensemen. They're so fun to watch. My breakout player, I'm going with Vasily Podkolzin, who looked pretty good last night, actually, in the Oilers-Canucks game. And my sleeper is Thatcher Demko. And you might think, wow, he played like 600 games last year, only because I don't see a lot of people picking the Canucks to make the playoffs. So I think that Thatcher Demko, if he gets them to the playoffs, then it's going to probably get nominated for the Vezina. But I think this guy's going to face a lot of shots, and he won't get as many wins, I'm not sure. But still, I think it's a sleeper. Maybe you don't think of I don't think a lot of people think of non-playoff goalies as top goalies. But in this case, I think Demko is going to warrant a lot of shots on net. I think he's going to get a lot of points by way of saves. I think Thatcher Demko also has the ability to go on really streaky runs. Like, I think at BU when he played, he had he had a crazy shutout record when he was there. So there's also the possibility that this guy could just get nuclear hot at some point. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, kind of on the backside of his career now. Bo Horvat is an interesting guy. No contract yet. The Canucks are like the Oilers. They're trying to go three down the middle. I think you're going to see Horvat and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in the top six at some point. I don't mind Horvat with Podkolzin and Andrei Kuzmenko, if that works. That's a good third line if that works, but I think you're going to end up seeing Bo Horvat. Bo Horvat could still get 30 goals on the third line. He's not going to get as many points. He still will get power play time. But when Miller goes and Pettersson goes and Hughes goes, don't worry. Be happy with Bo Horvat. Curtis Lazar is another interesting guy as a fourth liner that will be able to move up if there's injuries, or if Horvat gets pushed into the top six, then Lazar becomes your third line center in Vancouver. And like I said, I really like the goaltending of Thatcher Demko. So that's a look at the Vancouver Canucks. I would classify the team better than Anaheim, but sort of on the same wavelength as a team that, even though I think they can make a push for the playoffs, when I look at that defense core, and especially with, last night without Myers, I just don't see it. They couldn't hold the Oilers back last night. They had a 3-0 lead. So the more I look at it, I don't think this is a playoff team. More in the case of some really good fantasy options in the top 9 and a couple of blue liners, and certainly the goaltender as well. So what do you think of the Canucks as fantasy options? How deep would you go in drafting a Canuck? It was great to see Brock Besser playing last night because he had hand surgery. People didn't think he was going to make it to the start of the season. But he was there, and the Canucks put up a pretty valiant effort. Again, they couldn't hold back the best players in the game, Mcdavid, Draisaitl. How about the Vegas Golden Knights? They won their opener the other night against the LA Kings. And, they did it in what might become the new Golden Knights calling card. Defense winning games. The Golden Knights gave up only 7 shots in the third period the other night. So it was a fairly relaxing third period for Logan Thompson, who picked up his first victory. Jack Eichel, I think, is going to have a monster season. I got him pegged for 50-plus goals. I think Mark Stone's going to set up a lot of those. And I think the projections for Mark Stone are low. And Shea Theodore. Shea Theodore is just one of those guys that continues to produce offense. He has taken over from, Alex Pietrangelo, when he got there, was the offensive guy. That's what they thought. Now it's Shea Theodore. But Nick Hague is going to get options. Pietrangelo, Zach Whitecloud. This is a good team when you go by their top 6 and their top 4. Goaltending is going to be a question mark for sure. But that's why Bruce Cassidy is there, to limit the shots. So Theodore, Stone, Eichel. Nick Hague is my breakout player. He's going to get second power play time. And my sleeper is Phil Kessel. And Phil Kessel can bounce anywhere from your top line to your second line to your third line. And where Phil Kessel is going to, slot in could change on a night-to-night basis. Literally. Depends who's going, like a lot of teams. But he's on the first line right now. And this could change. But right now, looks like they're going with Jack Eichel, Phil Kessel, Riley Smith on the first line, Mark Stone, Chandler Stevenson, Brett Howden on the second line. Everybody looks at Kessel and says, oh, he's a goal scorer. He's a goal scorer. He turned into a really good setup man in Pittsburgh. So I like that move, $1.5 million. What a deal. Smart move by Kelly McCrimmon. And this Vegas Golden Knights team, good top 6. Not crazy about the third line, not crazy about the third pairing, but top 6, top 4. Goaltending, you probably want to use them as streamers when the matchups are good. Unless, like I said, Bruce Cassidy, old Butch, gets them playing sweet, sweet defensive hockey, which he did the other night. They only gave up 7 shots in the third period. So you might want to look at the goaltending options at some point when you were checking out the Vegas Golden Knights. I think mostly you're looking at the top 6 and the top 4, and I think they're a playoff team. I think the 3 playoff teams, I had the Canucks in. I don't see the Canucks as a playoff team now. I think you're looking at Edmonton, Calgary, Vegas, and then 5 teams from the Central. That's my look at it. As I said earlier, we're getting closer and closer to that cool part of the year. So next Thursday, when the Thursday night are on, we'll have probably all 4 sports. But Russell Westbrook didn't join the Lakers in the huddle last night in the preseason. I'm not the biggest basketball guy. I will ask the basketball fans that are out there right now. You can chime on this. Is Russell Westbrook a good fit for the Lakers? I like Russell Westbrook. But is he a good fit? Or, I don't know. Maybe Russell Westbrook isn't a good fit anywhere. He's very much an individual player. I liked him when he was with the Rockets and James Harden. It was fun to watch. But there just always seems to be drama. Now, there always seems to be drama in the NBA all the time. Even Ben Simmons saying the social media criticism gets to him. Well, then don't be on social media. It's not that hard to figure out. If you don't like social media, don't be on it. He doesn't have to be on social media. It's not part of his job. When you're in things like promotion, or you're a social media coordinator, or things like that. Yeah, you need social media to promote what you're doing. Ben Simmons does not. I have said this hundreds of times. If I was a professional athlete, there is zero chance I would be on social media.
0.0.
Not a chance. And if I was, it would be a super lockdown private account with only people that I know. It'd basically be like a text chat. But I wouldn't even go on social media if I was a professional athlete. Why? Why do you need to be on there? What good is going to come out of it? You know what? It's human nature. Somebody can say 9 great things about you. One person says a bad thing, and that's what you focus on. Most people, anyway. If you don't, you're lucky. Congratulations. Most people are like that. So if you're a professional athlete, the worst place to be is social media. The absolute worst place to be. So the first thing I would do when advising any athlete of anything, before money, before anything, don't go on social media. Delete all of your social media apps or limit it to such a small group of friends and family and whoever that's all you are going to see. Because I don't think a lot of good is going to come out of it. Maybe, there might be some good, but like I'm looking at 90% bad. You're going to get 90% garbage from people who have nothing better to do than try to tear somebody down because there's something terrible going on in their life. And they're keyboard warriors. They do it behind a keyboard, so they're anonymous. So why would any athlete, A, be on social media or engage with anybody on social media? Like even media members, like I've stopped doing it. What's the point? All you get are mouth breathers that want to tear you down. Now, I will engage in respectable debate. That I have no problem with. But the mute button, if I was in a Western, I would have the fastest mute button in it. Like Quick and the Dead, that was about me with the mute button. That's how fast I mute people. I don't block them because then it gives them the satisfaction, unless I never want to see them again. Like if I don't ever want to see their garbage, then it's blocked. But the mute button comes out pretty fast. All right, 2-1, Mariners leading, top of the 5th. This is very interesting because Framber Valdez is still in the game. This is the guy who had 25 consecutive quality starts from April till September. He is in jeopardy of not picking up the quality start, which was pretty much, he could go one more inning as long as he doesn't give up a run. Well, he just bounced one off the home plate there. But it is quite interesting. Framber Valdez, you usually expect minimum 6 innings from this guy. 2-1 Seattle leading the Astros. That one is in the top of the 5th. And J.P. Crawford, the number 9 hitter, up at the plate. All right, when we come back, we're going to dive into it. Ask Andy. Make sure you use that hashtag on social media. It's like the bat signal beacon going up in the sky in Southern Ontario. Andy will see it. He will find it like Liam Neeson in Taken and answer your question. That is coming up. I'll get his shot set up, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds or so. This is Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. We're back right after this. We have the man that has all the answers lined up to help you out. Ask Andy here on Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. Make sure you're using that hashtag on Twitter, on social media. Andy will be looking for it, and we will get to some of your questions here as we go into the Thursday Nighter. And God help us if it's as bad as last week's. I mean, I don't think it could possibly get any worse than last week's game as we bring in Andy McNamara, host of Ultimate Fantasy Football on Sundays, right here on our Ultimate Fantasy Sports Twitch channel. And the Commanders and the Bears tonight, all while this bizarre story about Dan Snyder having dirt on Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell. Like, the one thing I'll say is the NFL is never boring. And here's just a bizarre story like this. You know what this reminds me of is Dan Snyder got called out in class and he got in trouble. Yeah. And so now he's trying to get the other kids and the teacher in trouble. Like, this is just like classroom playground stuff.
Billionaires with their toys not getting along. And there was a funny quote I heard today. It was that Dan Snyder said, well, NFL owners all hate each other. And then an anonymous owner said, no, NFL owners just hate Dan Snyder. Which seems likely. He seems like a pretty crappy dude. He just seems like pretty unlikable. You've had a whole bunch of stuff go on, and he's clutching to that. He's like, you're not taking this franchise away from me, damn it. And, yeah, he's got files and all that. Let's be honest. Jerry Jones, we already know some of the stuff or the accusations that he's been up to. Jerry's kind of borderline real-life supervillain as well, so I'm sure that wouldn't be too hard to find some dirt on old Uncle Jerry.
Yeah, like, I just think people don't use dirt on Jerry Jones because it's Jerry Jones and he's so powerful in the NFL. Like,
makes you money.
Yeah, Dan Snyder is basically doing he's going down, fighting as much as possible. Obviously, he hasn't paid attention to what's happened in the NBA where franchises were taken away. I mean, there's one good thing, one good story about the Commanders, and that's Brian Robinson Jr. coming back. Everything else has been garbage tire fire about this organization, all the way back to RG3, to the name, to even before that. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. And the thing is, Jerry Jones makes the NFL a lot of money. You look at merchandise sales, which is a revenue share for across the league. Look at every single year, that Cowboy star sells a lot. So the other NFL owners, I don't know if they like Jerry Jones or not, but I know they like the paycheck that comes in because of his brand. I don't see too many people walking around with Commanders shirts or whatever outside of Washington, maybe even in Washington. So it's like Dan Snyder, just relax, okay? Just try not to ruin it for everybody else, I think is probably the message that the owners are saying. And this is probably just a scare tactic to say, hey, leave me alone. Yeah. I changed the name. Leave me alone now.
You know, even that first week, they had Washington State on the background of those mugs they were giving out instead of where they are in Washington. Like, they can't get anything right.
No,
so
it's terrible.
It is terrible. Okay, here's my start sits for tonight. There's not a lot of starts like last week. I did throw a couple of flex options in there, but what do you think? Would you start some of these guys that I'm sitting and sit some that I'm starting?
You know what? This is, I think, Dean, a perfect reflection of Thursday Night Football. There's a lot of sits here. There's a lot of sits. There's a lot of plea. Here's the thing. To eclipse the gong show that was last week's horrendously boring and just terrible game, you need one touchdown. One. There was 0 touchdowns last week. One for since the forward pass became a thing, Dean. Okay? There's usually been touchdowns in non-weather games. This wasn't an extreme weather game or anything.
Good point.
If I'm looking at this, you know what? I'd actually play Carson Wentz because 3 times he has gotten you over 22 fantasy points. Last week, 29 fantasy points. Now,
okay.
He could very easily have a dud today. Very, very easily. Because the games he wasn't getting you over 22 fantasy points, he was getting you 8 fantasy points.
Right.
So, I want to also see the response from Carson Wentz when essentially his head coach Ron Rivera said that he's got a crappy quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? You see that? It's like what's the problem? The quarterback. And he's like, oh, I didn't mean that. It's like, well, I don't
Why'd
really
you say
know
it
how
then?
else to interpret. How else to interpret, you know? So I would actually play Carson Wentz tonight, especially if you're doing like a DraftKings showdown head-to-head thing.
Sure.
And you have to pick these guys. Carson Wentz would be the guy. Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson frightened me today and this week because of this. Brian Robinson, first great story, like you said, but he was on a snap count last week. Well, we're talking about his second game back on a short week. Is that snap count still going to be there for Brian Robinson? If it's increased, by how much? Now, Logan Thomas is out with an injury. So does that share get divvied up between the other two tight ends? And not like Logan Thomas was getting 12 targets a game, right? You have Bates there, and Turner's the other guy. So we have to start to think, okay, Robinson or Gibson. If I had to pick one to flex, I'd probably pick Gibson just because I kind of know he's going to be there. Long-term season-wise, I think Brian Robinson they're going to give the ball to more and more. Dean, I just don't know today on a short week, game 2, after that layoff, when you already were on a snap count, if he's going to be the guy.
It's a really good point because, and in football, like Brian Robinson's going to start tonight, doesn't mean a whole lot. It's not like baseball where you're starting and then you come out, you can't go back in. Exactly. So it is a good story, but you might bring up a good point. It might be a better story as the season goes on, and he should be a guy that probably should be in your lineup. I am only starting one Bear tonight, and that would be David Montgomery. Although Justin Fields, I think, can give you some points on the ground, I still think the only start is Montgomery.
You know what's Dean, this is a real line at DraftKings Sportsbook. This is a real line. Over under 0.5 passing touchdowns for Justin Fields tonight. 0.5. He gets one passing touchdown, you win.
Yeah.
Like that does not give me confidence that we're going to see a barn burner this evening, right?
No.
And air it out. As soon as I saw that this run, I thought, oh man, are we going to be in for something like we saw last week? I'm with you. I don't want Justin Fields on the field there. Montgomery's the guy to play. Cole Kmet can't catch. Not his fault. He's not getting the targets. There's nothing there. Khalil Herbert as a desperation flex, I could see it. I wouldn't want to, but I could see it because he has had a consistent usage in some degree. But I'm with you. If you don't have to start him, Darnell Mooney's done nothing. St. Brown's done nothing.
Great name, though.
It's David Montgomery. That's it. Like, I don't want any of the receivers.
No. Not at all.
For sure.
Not at all. Equiminius St. Brown has the best name, certainly of anybody in the NFL, but doesn't get you on the field. So it's interesting you talk about the Justin Fields prop bet. The one I saw, 169.5 passing yards. I mean, a quarterback should be able to throw for 170 yards, except there's been 3 games, I think, where he hasn't. So that's why that line. The one I would take to cover is 42.5 rushing yards. I think Justin Fields gets more than that, and he has in his last 3 games. But that one touchdown and 170 yards, that's not a big bar to pass, and he might not pass it.
No, I'm with you on the rushing for sure. I think he can eclipse that. It's going to be a running game. And no, like the thing is, the Commander's strategy is going to try to make Justin Fields throw the football.
Right.
That's the strategy because he's not doing it well. So I think, that's going to be under. And the Bears are going to, if they're smart, are going to try to do everything possible to not have him throw the football very much. And so, I think you go under there, over on the rushing yards. Where are you at doing that 0.5 passing touchdowns? Like, that seems so ridiculous. You're like, of course there should be a passing touchdown. But there's been 3 games where he has not thrown a passing touchdown.
I would take the under. Like, I would take the under on that one because that's how little confidence I have in that offense. It's been terrible.
Yeah. Listen, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Like, it's not good. I think, Wentz could have a good one tonight. But these Thursday night games are always weird on short weeks. They're always weird. We see, like last week, you played that game last week on a Sunday in a normal week. I would hope, maybe it's the optimist in me, but I would hope we would see a much better ball game 9 times out of 10. So you have these weird things on short weeks. Carson Wentz, no injury designation going in, but he was dealing with a shoulder issue for most of the week. Mm-hmm. Something else to keep in mind.
Yeah. I think I have. I'll get to. Whoops! I'll get to the injuries in a second. But let's get to some Ask Angie questions. Paul, this is a bit of a. He's got a lot of choices here. He says, any of these guys a better option than Jarvis Landry? He's got Zach Jones, the other Jones, Martin. I think what's the Jones from Jacksonville?
Zay Jones.
Oh, Zay Jones is from Jacksonville. There's two Jones from Jacksonville.
Yeah, and Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones, that's the guy, not Martin. Aguilar, Chase Claypool, Osborne, Slayton, Peoples-Jones. Is he better off going with Landry?
Here's the thing. So that whole Saints receiver core is incredibly banged up, including Jarvis Landry. And since week 1, it's not like Jarvis has been doing much anyway. He's been getting phased out. It's been Chris Olave, who's also injured. So you have all that. If I had to pick just from that group, I'd go Zay Jones. He's been the most consistent as a number 2 to Christian Kirk. However, in my Tuesday video at AndyMC81 on Twitter, #AskAndy, fantasy or waiver wire meat on the bone, right? We're looking at what to get. Alec Pierce is still owned in less than 30% of most redraft leagues for the Colts. And the reason, Dean, is you look at trends. You don't necessarily just look at the fantasy points overall. Look at how is he trending. Well, for Alec Pierce, what we're seeing is every single week, without fail so far, every single week, the targets have increased and the receiving yards have increased. What does that tell you? It means a veteran quarterback is getting more comfortable with his rookie wide receiver. So I would see if Alec Pierce is still on that waiver wire and scoop him up instead. But if he's not, then I guess you go with Zay Jones.
Well, so here's the injuries you were talking about. Look at Thomas and Olave. Didn't practice yesterday. That's the scary thing. You're certainly watching it today, but it does bring up a good point. Keenan Allen could play on Monday, but when guys are not practicing Wednesday and Thursday, then you get really concerned, not just about if they're going to play, but are they going to be effective enough to be a starter in your lineup, or are you wasting a roster spot? Just because a guy's in the lineup doesn't mean he might only be 60%.
Absolutely. And the other tricky part is, like with the Keenan Allen situation, that's Monday night. So if you guess wrong and he's out or severely limited or gets injured in game, you're done.
Yeah.
You're out of luck. You could do maybe a last minute pivot to a Josh Palmer, but I would rather, if he's there, exactly, DeAndre Carter perhaps, but that's not exciting anybody. I would rather say plan your week, around not having Keenan Allen there because he hasn't been there. Track it. We still have a couple days. Maybe it starts trending upward nicely through Saturday or something. But if this status remains the same, I wouldn't trust Keenan Allen because he hasn't been playing.
Yeah. You know what you should do the Ruxin and go and pick up Josh Palmer so nobody else can have him. Remember, like Ruxin would take all the defenses in the league, so you can do that.
Yes.
Rob Gray says, ask Andy, Hawkinson on bye, Disley or Everett? Was able to grab Eno off waivers. My running backs aren't good. Has to start one of Hunt or Elliott. Rondé Moore is available. Pick up and start over Kurt. Thanks as always. Ask Andy.
Well, so let's start with the tight end situation. So, Hawkinson on bye. Disley is the epitome of touchdown or bust. As in, Dean, he'll get 2 catches, and if one of those catches is not a touchdown,
that's it.
You get nothing. You get like 3 points. That's too risky. Everett has at least been, especially, and we talk again, with the surrounding pieces, right? So Everett, I feel, is somebody who has been, like, the tight end spot is such a hole outside of Kelsey and Andrews, and even Waller's been banged up, that really you have to say, okay, what tight end, like you look at it, what tight end is at least a part of the offense? So you look at the Chargers again, Monday, and let's look at I just want to look at his, the targets that we were seeing. So pretty consistent. He had an outlier of 10, a bottom one of 3, averaging 5 to 6. So that's, that 5 to 6 targets. That's okay, couple touchdowns. Everett has been a part of the offense. That's what you want to see, getting more than a couple targets, and the yardage has been okay. So I think you go with Everett.
I mean, when you look at the tight end projections for this week, there's a massive drop-off after Mark Andrews. Kelsey, 14, Mark Andrews, 13.5. Then nobody else is projected to get over 10. So, Listen, if you can get 10 points out of your tight end this weekend, you're going to be happy because there's only 2 guys projected to get it.
Hayden Hurst. I think he was a little nicked up, but I think he should play. Hayden Hurst, especially if T. Higgins doesn't play for the Bengals. Last couple weeks, he's popped a little bit. Now, that could go away instantly. You have 3 fantastic wide receivers in Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, and then Hurst is that other guy. But we have seen it. So if you are in a desperation play and you got a guy on bye or injured or whatever, you could go worse than Hayden Hurst. I would still have like an Everett above him, but if you're looking to stream somebody or in a pinch, Hurst has at least popped a little bit over the last couple weeks.
You know what's interesting about this tight end list here is when I throw up the top projections for quarterbacks, you look KC, Baltimore, Philly, Arizona, the Rams. And then you look at the quarterbacks. KC, Baltimore, Philly, Arizona, only the Rams aren't there. Josh Allen is the one guy that doesn't have a tight end this year, but all these quarterbacks on this list, 4 out of the 5, have a top tight end. And it's strange because tight ends are really inconsistent, but it is weird how the projections are going with tight ends, and the quarterback that is going to get the big projections usually has a tight end, at least this week.
Yeah, well, and Dallas Goedert, I know his projection is under 10, but overall, he's been solid. And it's another case of where's the workload going to go in Philadelphia, undefeated Eagles, with Jalen Hurts, who runs, a couple games without a passing touchdown, but he's still throwing the ball. You're still getting those fantasy points, just not getting those more valuable touchdowns. But you have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts likes to run. And you can hand it off to those running backs.
That's right.
But Dallas Goedert isn't the worst play either because he has been involved in that offense and does have a comfort level with the quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts, like you said, likes to run. And a lot of times when you're scrambling, you're looking for the biggest target. And that's going to be the tight end.
Move the chains.
Yeah, exactly. It's bye weeks. This is when I think fantasy really starts because it's like after Labor Day in the CFL because now depth comes into it. And we'll see, do you have your quarterback? Do you have an extra running back? Do you have those guys? This is what separates fantasy, in my opinion. The stretch here, you can start off 6-0 and then fall apart during bye weeks because you don't have depth.
That's right. You could be the fantasy version of the Arizona Cardinals team, right? Every year. Except the Arizona Cardinals forgot to get good at the start of the season. They just started bad. They started in their November form and forgot to get good. So this week, Lions, Titans, Raiders, Texans off. Even like the Texans, Damian Pierce has been popping.
That's right.
You don't have Pierce. The Raiders, Devontae Adams, though. Oh,
Josh Jacobs off too, yeah.
Yeah, Darren Waller even though he's been banged up. Titans, of course, Derrick Henry. And the Lions have been surprisingly fantasy superstars.
Yeah.
No Amon-Ra St. Brown, no DeAndre Swift, no Jamal Williams who stepped up, no TJ Hawkinson. There's a lot of pieces missing.
Indeed. Be an interesting one. You'll have Ultimate Fantasy Football, 11 a.m. on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, and everybody can make sure, especially with those bye weeks, that they know who is in and who is out, and they can join you right here on Twitch.
There you go, brother. That's it. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week of games. I'm just looking at like Bills Chiefs, 4:25 Eastern prime. Rematch of that playoff classic. Eagles Cowboys. David Cooper Rush, can he stay undefeated with Dak Prescott knocking on the door? Still that grip issue with the thumb against the Eagles, and Broncos Chargers interdivision game. I'm interested in this one, not necessarily from what we were hoping would have been a shootout factor at the start of the season, but how Russell Wilson responds after getting that shoulder procedure and just really having one of the worst games of his career. So it's going to be a great week.
Indeed, man. We'll catch up with you Sunday morning. We'll be watching right here on Twitch. Thanks, my man.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
You bet. There's Andy McNamara. Ask Andy. Use that hashtag on social media. He will find you. And Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, he will be right here on Twitch to answer your fantasy questions. All right. We have our next guest joining us. Give me 30 seconds. I'll set up Mike Amato from Sportsnet. Dobber Hockey, Goalie Post will get you set up for this weekend and take a look at what's been happening this week as the NHL gets underway. We're back in a second. right, thank you very much for sticking around. It is 5:23 in the east, 2:23 or 3:23 in the Mountain Time Zone, just outside of Edmonton, where last night the greatest player in the game right now put on a show as the Oilers came back from a 3-0 deficit against the Canucks, sparked by the captain Connor McDavid's hat trick. Just an outstanding night that he had in fantasy performance, and what a great opener for the Oilers. As we bring in Michael Amato, you can read his stuff at Sportsnet, at Goalie Post. He's also helping us out. We're going to give away a Dobber Hockey Fantasy Guide today on the show, so you'll want to be paying attention to what we're talking about. But what a start loss. Let's start with McDavid. I mean, I don't know if the game was over by the time we exchanged notes and he had gone to new heights, but he just really, like, the Oilers, they didn't have a great start, but this is the Oilers, and this is what every other team is now realizing, that no lead is safe with this team. And they're showing it off on game one with a hat trick from their captain.
Yeah, well, there was talk, and I think you mentioned it last week, that McDavid wanted to score more this year, and he certainly didn't waste any time. I guess you're never really out of a game when you have Connor McDavid on your team. That was pretty spectacular. So, yeah, hat trick first night, and what a way to sort of kick off the new season.
Oh, my God. It was, listen, the entertainment value last night between the all-Canadian matchups, that Leafs-Canadian game was good back and forth. Same with the Canucks and Oilers. I haven't found very many games that I'm like, well, this is a boring game, I'm going to switch the channel this year. From going back to last Friday, we only had one game, the games in Europe. But starting on Tuesday with the two games, it's been an exciting start for the NHL. I don't think they could ask for much better start than their marquee player getting a hat trick, the Rangers, an up-and-coming team with a great victory. I mean, it was a good first couple of nights in North America, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed some of the late games too. Like LA Vegas had a really good game that first night there, and even Seattle Anaheim, that was a wild one last night. A big comeback by the Ducks. Lots of crazy goals in that game too. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, listen, I think the Anaheim Ducks, I'm not sure they're going to be a playoff team, but they are certainly going to be a fun fantasy team, and they are going to provide a ton of fantasy options. This is quickly, there's a couple of baseball notes on here, so don't worry about it, but you mentioned John Gibson and the Ducks, or you mentioned the Ducks. John Gibson makes 44 saves and the victory, and he picks up an assist. I mean, that's just bonus points in your league. Like I said, you might not get a lot of wins from guys like John Gibson or even Thatcher Demko, but you are obviously going to get the save bonuses.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of writing Gibson off, including myself. So it's obviously a good start for him there. I know he's had some lower numbers in the past few years, but yeah, it's definitely a good start for him. Obviously, like you mentioned, I don't think the Ducks are going to get too many wins, but I think they're probably going to score a lot and be fun to watch. So yeah, when you're on the right side of it with Gibson, it's really good.
Yeah, and John Klingberg, couple assists last night. Like, they definitely have some offensive pieces there as well. Might be at the expense of their goaltending, which could be the opposite of what is going on in Vegas, as you pointed out. And perfect prediction, by the way, because that third period in Vegas the other night, or in LA, was pretty good. But let's talk about this weekend coming up, first of all, and then we'll go back and look at some of the more cool things that happened. And we always want to provide some goalies for people to, it's like rent a goalie on the weekend, right? Like, because you're looking at matchups, you might want to stream a guy, grab a guy on waivers. Here are, I think, some really good options for a couple of games for people to pay attention to. Why don't you start with Brian Elliott in Tampa?
Yep. So Tampa has a back-to-back this weekend. I think Friday Columbus and Saturday Pittsburgh. So I'm assuming he's going to get one of those starts. He played really, really well last year. Tampa is obviously a really strong team in front of him, and you mentioned it earlier. They're coming off a tough loss. I think they're going to want to be pretty motivated. So I think he's a good option if you're if you're behind in your matchup, or even this week's somewhat of a short week, you might need to hit your minimum start, so you might have to grab somebody. I think he's a good play there. And I think obviously one of the San Jose guys, Reimer, Kakkonen, they'll be playing Chicago on Saturday. It'll be Chicago's third game in 4 nights, I believe. Obviously not a strong team. And I think before we came on here, I heard Reimer is starting tomorrow. So I have a feeling it's going to be Kakinen on Saturday, but obviously not confirmed yet. But keep an eye on that. So yeah, if it's Kakinen against Chicago with the Blackhawks' third game in 4 nights, I think that's a good pickup if you need a win or a quality start. Because yeah, and remember, there's no games on Sunday this week. So if you're in a head-to-head, you got to do all your fine-tuning on Saturday.
That's a really good point and really rare. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know about that. That is an extremely good point because when you go to pick up a goalie on Sunday and there's no games, you've lost your matchup already. So that's an excellent point by you. The Brian Elliott situation is really interesting for me. I went and I looked at the game by games, and he started more front half back-to-backs as the season went on in Tampa, and they used Vasilevsky in the second half. In the first half, he was starting the second half of the back-to-back games. So maybe that's what happens here. I think Brian Elliott is an interesting guy to have on your stream watch because the Tampa Bay Lightning have played so much hockey. I have to think Elliott might get more games than he has in the past with Vasilevsky getting a rest. And I think he played 19 games last year. So you might get a few more games out of Brian Elliott this year than last year.
Yeah, it only makes sense. Like, I don't know why Tampa would overwork Vasilevsky. I think they've proven, they're just a strong playoff team. Like, they don't necessarily need to win the President's Trophy or win the division. As long as they get in, they'll be fine. So if I'm Tampa, I'm probably giving Vasilevsky a few more nights off this year, and playing Elliott a little bit more, which is great if you're looking to stream someone.
Yeah, totally. Or if he's going well and you wanted to stash a backup if you have room, but I'm not crazy about doing that. I'd rather use the versatility on some forwards and yeah, you mentioned it. The Hawks, they don't even need to be in 3 and 4 nights to be the free spot on the bingo card this year. It's going to be a contest between them and Arizona to see, who is going to be the easiest, the backup night. Like, listen, I did the pre and post game show for the Oilers a lot of times. The Oilers during those years saw a lot of backup goalies. So it's an important thing to know, like, who is playing Chicago tonight? Who is playing Arizona tonight? It's not going to work every night because they do win some games, but knowing those free spot on the bingo cards is so important for streaming goalies.
Yeah, it's critical. And there's quite a few teams this year, I think, that are just given, the Connor Bedard carrot hanging out in front of a lot of teams. I think there's going to be a few more teams in that mix too, whether it's, the Philadelphia Flyers, I think, are another one that might really struggle this year. I know a lot of people were asking me today if they should grab Mackenzie Blackwood for tonight because the Devils are playing the Flyers and they think he might be a good ad. So yeah, like you said, I think those types of teams are good to keep an eye on when there's a goalie starting against them that's on the waiver wire.
All right. By the way, if anybody does have any questions, we are, of course, live on Twitch. You can just drop them in the message board, and we'll throw them out at Michael, or you can obviously reach him on Twitter as well. We'll throw up your Twitter account there, at Amato_Mike. So if anybody does have any fantasy questions for Mike, they can throw them in the Twitch chat or throw them out on Twitter, and we will get to them. Okay, so the defending champs last night also in action, and they did not disappoint. Mikko Rantanen, especially, with 4 helpers. Val Nichushkin, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar combined for 6 points and 15 shots. There are some teams, and I used to look at the Kansas City Chiefs this way in football, that start any Chief. Is that what we're looking at with the Colorado Avalanche almost? Like, I'm not sure if you want to start the 4th liners or the third pairing defense, but certainly maybe the top 6, top 9, and top 4 blue liners, they all seem to get points. And maybe in Colorado you do want to start all their blue liners because they're so good, but are most Colorado Avalanche must starts at this point?
I think they're definitely the team with the most amount of players you could roster or start. And I think what's interesting right now is there's no Gabriel Landeskog. So there's obviously a spot there in the top 6. Nichushkin is taking advantage of it. Lehkonen, Evan Rodriguez is up. I think Newhook's the other player that's in the top 6 right now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see when Landeskog comes back, who drops down. But yeah, I think all those guys that you mentioned earlier, obviously guys you're gonna own, gonna roster, and gonna start. But yeah, pretty much anybody that's piggybacking off them is going to be great to play. And the Avalanche, yeah, like you said, they're 3 lines deep. They're both power play options are pretty effective. So there's a lot to choose from there for sure.
Yeah, the one thing I guess that's going to be interesting to watch is, is Alex Newhook a capable replacement for Nazem Kadri? Or, are they going to have to look at some other options as they go or whoever? So that's really, and I think goaltending is a bit of a question mark, but like the Oilers, they should be able to outscore their mistakes on most nights. Martin Neckash had a pretty good night as well. A goal, 2 assists, and he had the primary assist on the game-winning goal. Not sure if there's bonuses for anything like that in any kind of strange leagues, but he was in on the final 3 goals of the Hurricanes. That's the thing that I really like, because that tells me Rod the Bod Brindamore is like, get out there. He sees a guy that's going hot, and he wants to get him in on the action. So when a guy is in on a lot of the goals, I get even more excited than even a hat trick or something like that, just because this guy is showing his versatility, and the Canes are showing that they really want him to be a part of their offense.
Yeah, and it's really encouraging if you're hoping for an HS bounce back season. I think he was one of the more disappointing players last year in fantasy. I think a lot of people were anticipating a breakout season for him, and he kind of went the other direction. But he's a pretty important player for them now with Trocheck gone. I think obviously they have Kotkaniemi centering that second line, and Svechnikov is there too. So if Natchez doesn't really go, it's going to be really tough because Kotkaniemi's not a real offensive threat. So to really get Svechnikov going, I think a lot of people are hoping for a 30 goal or 40 goal season from him, maybe a 70-point season from him, and I don't think he gets anywhere close to that without Natchez playing really well. So yeah, definitely if you banked on him to bounce back, it's an encouraging start for sure.
The Carolina Hurricanes have done a lot of things really well. I wonder if they want like a mulligan on the Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, and you could sort of tell when they signed Paul Stastny in the offseason that they're not quite 100% sure on Kotkaniemi. But yeah, I could definitely see them regretting that. Second line center is pretty important because they're pretty stocked everywhere else, and it's just that one second line center role. If he can't fill it, they might have some problems. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he can do it. But yeah, he hasn't really been a huge offensive player in his career, so I think to play that high up in the lineup, he'll probably have to change that.
Yeah, and hopefully he can. It just hasn't happened yet, and it's going to be more expensive than he probably should be at this point in his career. Well, last night something happened, and the band is back together for the Boston Bruins. And you think of the guys that they're missing too, right, from this team, but Bergeron, Krejci, Pasternak, 8 points for the Bruins last night. We're going to get into something else with the Bruins and the goaltending end of things, but a lot of people are looking at the Bruins as possibly missing the playoffs because of the coaching change and the injuries. And obviously they're not going to get 8 points every night, but they do have the veteran guys, I think, that will be able to weather the storm.
Yeah, like every year it seems like a lot of people think they're starting to get old and they're over the hill, and they just keep rolling. They're such pros, and it really looked like getting David Krejci back was a breath of fresh air for them. It looked like a piece that they really missed in the top 6. And his game, even though he's getting older, like his game just looks like it's going to age so well. Like it seems like he could play forever. He doesn't really rely on a lot of speed. He's just so savvy with the puck, and he just made that whole group go, and they looked really good last night.
So the interesting thing is the goaltending decision, and I had Jeremy Swayman as a guy that I thought was going to be a real revelation this year. And one game doesn't mean anything, but he didn't start last night. Ullmark did. Pretty good, 33 saves, 6 of them on a power play in a 5-2 win. Do we read anything into this? Do we have to wait 15, 20 games before we can figure out what the Bruins might do in goal?
Yeah, and I think most people were thinking about it the way you were, because when I checked today, I think Swayman was 90% rostered in Yahoo, and Ullmark was 57. So I actually do think it means something. I don't think it means necessarily a bad thing for Swayman. I just think it means they're probably a lot closer together than a lot of people think. Like the gap between them is probably closer. I think they're probably going to play closer to a 50-50 split. So yeah, if you need goaltending help, Allmark's probably available in almost half the leagues out there. And it looks like, he's going to get a lot of starts. He played well. So it looks like the Bruins are strong. That's a guy I would be grabbing. But if you have Swayman, it's probably a mild concern. If you were banking on maybe 60% of the starts from him, you're going to probably lose a few starts. But, like you said, it's one game, things can change. But definitely encouraging if you took a chance on Allmark.
Yeah, and especially with a short week with no games on Sunday, you could be really out of luck, and then you're looking for a streamer. By the way, for baseball fans, Yordan Alvarez has hit another home run, a 2-run shot for the Astros. They lead 3-2 in the 6th inning. So that one getting very interesting. And the race for the Calder Trophy, I think it's an excellent race. Like I know we seem to say this a lot, but the crop of good young players is so fun. And we have a superstar in Connor McDavid and a superstar goal scorer in Austin Matthews. Like, this is just a fun time to be in the NHL and watching it. And last night, 2 guys in the same game, Matty Beniers of the Kraken, the first of what we think will be many, and Mason McTavish, who I was going to say played his first game, but he played everywhere last year, including 9 games with the Ducks. And these are just 2 of the candidates a lot of people have. But this Seattle team, we talked about them being defensively buttoned down. They give up 5 in the first game. Maybe some jitters, but definitely some good contenders for the Calder race on display last night.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Beniers is up to 11 points in 11 career games going back to last year. So I think he'll be definitely a contender for the Calder. McTavish was nice to see the Ducks playing him higher up in the lineup on the wing. I thought they might play him at center, maybe on the 3rd line or something, just to ease him in. But no, it looks like he's going to be playing up higher in the lineup, so that's really good if you're rostering McTavish. But those 2 guys could easily compete. I picked Marco Rossi to win the Calder before the season started. He had a really strong preseason, but it could easily be either of these 2 guys too. There's a lot of young talent this year for sure. Yeah,
I forgot Beniers played 10 games last year. I totally forgot that. I thought it was
at the end.
Just McTavish when he left Michigan, and 9 points in 10 games. I mean, that's a pretty impressive haul. He has a goal and an assist last night. I think Seattle, and we've talked about this, is going to be much better. I don't think either of these teams make the playoffs, but I think they do provide really good individual fantasy options.
Yeah, I do as well. I think both teams, or I think you're bang on with Seattle. I think Seattle will be a lot better. I think both teams will be fun to watch. I think, like last night, they'll be playing a lot of 5-4 games. They'll probably lose a bunch of them, but it's great for fantasy. Unless you have one of their goalies, you're not too concerned as long as the skaters are scoring points.
Exactly. Okay, so we talked about McDavid, what he did. The Oilers' special teams were excellent last night. The Canucks' special teams last year weren't very good, and so that was the difference in the game. And McDavid had a pretty good week in one night. I think you said that about Mika Zibanejad earlier on Twitter this week as well. He had a week that a lot of guys could dream of in one night, kind of like McDavid last night. That's the kind of week that allows you to put your feet up and relax the rest of the week almost if you're in fantasy, eh?
Yeah, I think it was 9 shots he had, 2 goals. I think 9 faceoff wins if you're in a league that counts faceoffs. He's pretty versatile. I think he was had an ADP in the 3rd round, so a 3rd round pick on average. That he's probably going to outperform that for sure. So he's great for multi-cat leagues. He's actually decent for hits too. Not great, but he's okay. He's such a great talent.
Plays in every situation. I think he played 244 of shorthanded time the other night too. And in one of our leagues, that's a stat that I love, because not only do the superstars get to do that, and the number 1 defenseman, but the number 3 and the number 4 defensemen are able to up their value a little bit in fantasy by playing key minutes, because we know those guys are important. I mean, the guy I always look at is Jay Bouwmeester. Didn't put up a massive amount of points, but played such an important role for all those teams. Jacob Slavin, the same thing, although the offense is coming. So it's an interesting category to have out there to try and increase the production from some other guys.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's I kind of put in the category of shutouts, where one shorthanded point or one shutout can really win the category for the whole week. And I think you mentioned some guys. that fit into that bill. And I think just it's important to note too, just guys that play a lot in general, right? When you have categories like volume categories, whether it's blocks and hits, guys that play more just have more opportunities to pick up those kind of stats. So yeah, ice time is a pretty underrated thing to look at.
I love it. When we would do our, game notes after games when I was at Global, I would always try to include ice times of players because I think it tells you it does tell you who the coach values in those situations. And speaking of coaches and who they value, you pointed it out brilliantly about Bruce Cassidy and Vegas and the defensive system. And man, did it ever stand out on opening night. They only gave up 7 shots in the third period. They only gave up 7 in the first as well, but locking it down in the third period is something we probably should expect from Vegas. It might come at the expense of some points, although Eichel, Stone, Kessel, they look pretty good in game 1, but buttoning down defense is probably something that we should see a lot more, as you pointed out, and it worked perfectly for them on night 1.
Yeah, Cassidy's a really good defensive coach, and yeah, it's showing up right away. And I think that's what gave them confidence to kind of go into the season with Hill and Thompson there, at least to start. And they looked pretty strong defensively. Eichel and Stone looked really healthy for the first time in a while. I think they're moving around pretty good. And I think Vegas is getting Nick Hague back tonight for his first game after he signed his deal. So another defenseman to add in there. And yeah, it should. You might see a little bit of a different style in Vegas this year, maybe a little bit more defensively focused. But yeah, I'm sure. If it helps them get wins and get back to the playoffs, that's what their main focus is going to be. So yeah, I think Cassidy you're probably going to see a lot more of that style, especially in third periods.
For sure. And, Phil Kessel slides into that top line right now, for at different times. A guy that can play line 1 to line 3. You mentioned Nick Hague is going to improve their power play, their second power play unit. I mean, Vegas, the writing off of Vegas, I think, is a little bit premature. I'm not saying it's not they're as good as they have been in the past. There's been some moves, but they still have an incredible amount of talent. Health is going to be the thing for them because they don't have the depth. That is going to be the thing that holds Vegas back, in my opinion, is health.
Definitely, yeah. They're obviously one of those teams that's tight to the cap, and any team that is in that situation, you're going to be pretty top heavy, and you're going to rely on those main guys. And yeah, if they do get a Stone injury or an Eichel injury, it's going to be tricky to overcome. But right now, I think they're looking pretty strong after one game. They look like they're definitely playing with more of a purpose and more of a team concept, I think, this year.
I think Eichel can get 50. I really do. And I can't wait to watch Vegas Oilers to see Eichel McDavid more often this year because, nobody's as fast as Connor McDavid, but Jack Eichel is pretty good. He's a pretty good skater, and he's got a wicked release. So I'm really looking forward to that. And finally, I'll just here's my projections for the top goalies this year. I took Sorokin of the Islanders out. And I'm trying to think of the other guy from the top 10. Oh, Bobrovsky I took out. I moved Jack Campbell in because I think the win volume he's going to get. But usual names, Thatcher Demko, another guy that's going to play a lot. Vasilevsky, I think the games come down as we talked about. But what do you think about this list? Anybody glaring that is missing off of this list from last year or going into this year?
No, it's pretty good. Again, a lot of these guys are so close. I personally probably would have included Sorokin, but I know a lot of people don't have him in their top 10 as well. I just think, I think the Isles are probably going to be a lot better this year. And I think Sorokin, even though the Isles had a really bad season last year, his numbers still improved from year 1 to year 2. So that's the only one I would say. But yeah, all these goalies are sort of must-owns, goalie ones on any fantasy team. I see Saros there. I really like him. I actually think he could narrow the gap sort of on. I know we talk about the big two all the time, Vasilevsky and Shasturkin, but I think he could sort of work his way into the conversation. He plays a ton and his numbers never go down. So yeah, he's really impressive guy as well.
And Freddie Anderson, people forget because he wasn't around for the playoffs, but he had a terrific year last year. So I think the goaltending, like I said, the NHL is so fun to watch right now with the creativity and the speed. If we could get a little bit less of the dragging and the dragging down the star players, it'd be awesome. But beggars can't be choosers. It's the first start, and we're off to a good one. So enjoy the weekend, the first weekend in hockey, Saturday night. As we mentioned, look for those goalie matchups. Who's playing Chicago? Who's got the back-to-backs? Pick up your streamers, and make sure you're following Mike on Twitter. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Dean. Take care.
You betcha. As always, it is fun to chat with Michael Amato. You can find him on Twitter at Amato_Mike. You can check him out at Sportsnet Fantasy Hockey, covering it for Sportsnet, at Goalie Post, and there we have the team preview of the Vancouver Canucks. So if you want to get your hands on a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide, here is the question, or the answer to the question you have to drop into the chat on Twitch. How many points did Bergeron, Krejci, and Pasternak combine for last night? If you know that answer, drop it in the Twitch message board, and Andrea Karandek will get this amazing fantasy guide to you. It really is awesome. So we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get to a few house cleaning things. But if you have the answer to our question, you will win a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide. How many points did Bergeron, Krejci, and Pasternak combine for last night in the Bruins' victory over the Capitals? All right, final break on this Thursday edition of Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily. We are back to wrap up the show in just a second. Minutes before 5 o'clock, or 6 o'clock rather, Eastern time, 8 minutes before 4 o'clock in the Mountain Time Zone where I am located. My name is Dean Millard. It is awesome to have you along for the ride today. We heard from Andy McNamara. Ask Andy. Use that hashtag on social media. He will find you and answer your questions, just like Liam Neeson in Taken, but in a much nicer way. Also, Michael Amato just joined us from Sportsnet, Dobber Hockey, and Goalie Post. Great rundown of what's been happening so far, what you can expect to continue in fantasy hockey, who you should be grabbing for this weekend's matchups. All that information from Andy and Michael today. Great conversations, helping you win your league and make them better. We also have a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide to give away. All you have to do to win that is tell us how many points Krejci, Bergeron, and David Pastrnak combined for last night in the Bruins-Capitals game. We told you that answer when we were chatting. We actually showed you that answer in a graphic. Or you could go find it on the game sheet. Drop it in the Twitch message chat. You can get yourself a Dobber Hockey fantasy guide. Arnie won it last week, and it's awesome. Like, it is excellent. It will definitely help you. One of the better fantasy guides that I have found that are out there. Update on Major League Baseball. The Astros coming back on the Mariners again. And the guy who hit the home run in Game 1 has hit another home run. Yordan Alvarez hit a 2-run shot in the 6th inning, I believe. It's now 3-2. Luis Garcia, I think it was, or Golito, the starter. Luis Castillo, sorry, he's out of the game for the Mariners. Framber Valdez, I was telling you earlier, this guy is the quality start king. 25 straight games in the regular season. He gave up 3 or less runs and went at least 6 innings. Wow, he only goes 5 and 2 innings, so it was almost automatic. He would have got the one more out, and he would have had the quality start. But he's done. Astros are onto their 3rd reliever right now, so we'll continue to update you over the next few minutes about that one. Later tonight, Yankees trying to take a 2-0 series lead in the Bronx. Shane Bieber will try and stop that. Nestor Cortez, the lefty, 12-4 with a sub-250 ERA, will be on the hill tonight. Your starts and sits. Sit most of these guys. It's probably not going to be a great game. Sorry, but it's not. Hopefully, it is better than last week. And some prop bets to tell you about. I'd take the under on Wentz. I'd take the under on Fields. I'd take the over on Fields rushing. Under on Cole Kmet and Brian Robinson Jr. It's a good story. I'll take the over. But Andy McNamara, good point. Second start after getting shot. Might be on a snap count. Watch these guys when it comes to the injury situation heading into the weekend. T. Higgins didn't practice today. Aaron Rodgers didn't practice yesterday. Keenan Allen might play Monday. Only played 1 game this year as a hamstring. Michael Thomas didn't practice yesterday. Same with Chris Olave in New Orleans. The Saints receivers are massively banged up. And if you want to make a bet on any of the big games tonight or this weekend, head to BetUS. Bet responsibly. Check out my link in my Twitter bio at Duck Millard, and boom, you get a 125% bonus. So head to Duck Millard on Twitter, click the link in my bio, get a 125% bonus, and put something down on the game tonight, or maybe you want to throw something down on some hockey games tonight, because there are some dandies tonight as well. The NHL, good point. Really, really good point by Michael Amato that there is no games on Sunday. So tonight you got the Coyotes and the Devils. Start Tristan Jarry all the way. Devils, Flyers, Senators, Sabres, Panthers, Islanders, Capitals, Maple Leafs, Rangers, Wild, Stars, Preds, Avalanche, Flames, Blackhawks, Golden Knights, Kraken, Kings. So even back-to-back night, start your Golden Knights against the Blackhawks. Start Logan Thompson tonight, or if it's going to be Aiden Hill. Lots of games. Enjoy it. You will have lots of things to do if you decide not to watch Thursday night football, especially if it's a terrible game. You got the Yankee game, this Astros game might be going on. The NHL starts in an hour's time. So lots of great stuff on this Thursday night. We'll have Casual Friday tomorrow, some of the best interviews from this week, and breaking news going on in the world of sports. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Big thanks to Andy McNamara, who joined us for Ask Andy. If you missed anything, check it out on YouTube. It'll be uploaded later today. And Michael Amato of Dobber Hockey, Sportsnet, and Goalie Post, giving us the lowdown on what's happening in the NHL this weekend. Enjoy your Thursday evening. We are back with Casual Friday tomorrow. Have yourself a great and safe evening, and we will chat tomorrow.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.